A figure skater who allegedly mocked the U.S. national anthem is now reportedly facing a lifetime ban. And that's just the beginning of what's coming for her. Eileen Gu skipped competing for America, won Olympic gold for China instead, and Representative Andy Ogles just dropped a bill that would tax athletes like her at 100% on every dollar earned competing for a foreign adversary. Look, this isn't abstract politics. That's real money, real consequences written into federal law. The alleged anthem mockery apparently lit the fuse on something lawmakers were already building. Ogles is done letting this slide, and the crackdown he's pushing could permanently reshape what it costs to choose another country over your own. The ban may be the headline, but the financial and legal fallout still unfolding behind it is the story nobody's fully mapped yet. Rep. Ogles isn't playing games. And honestly, it's about time someone in Congress had the spine to say enough. You don't get to grow up on American soil, train in American facilities, benefit from American infrastructure, and then flip to a regime actively working against this country and keep every dollar from the deal. I think the hypocrisy is what burns people most. She won't say a word about genocide against the Uyghurs, but she's got plenty to say about Trump and Teen USA. That's not nuance. That's a loyalty test she failed in public, on camera, repeatedly. And now the conveniently timed assault claims nobody heard about for years, claims at least one outlet tried to verify and came up empty. The timing alone tells you everything. It's a distraction, plain and simple. What Ogles is proposing is pure accountability logic. Betray the country, lose the bag. That's the boomerang. Every sponsorship dollar earned by undercutting America comes right back as a tax bill. The establishment will scream about it. They always do when consequences show up. Who, what, why it matters. Eileen Gu, born in San Francisco, raised in America, trained in America, competed in American ski programs her whole childhood. Then, when the Olympics came calling, she made a choice. She picked up and competed for China. The communist Chinese government reportedly paid her millions to do it. Then she came back home, back to the United States, back to the country she turned her back on when it mattered most. And now she's at the center of a firestorm that goes way beyond one athlete's career decisions. This is about loyalty. It's about who this country pours its resources into, and whether those people owe anything in return. It's about taxpayer-funded training pipelines, national identity, and what it means to stand under a flag. Here's why this matters to you. If America's best athletes can grab everything this country offers and then represent its chief geopolitical rival on the world stage, that's not just a personal choice. And a lot of Americans aren't willing to stay quiet about it anymore. Let's start with the political response, because it came fast and it came loud. A sitting U.S. Congresswoman put it plainly. This athlete trained here, lived here, breathed American freedom her entire life, and then chose to wear the uniform of a communist regime when the cameras were rolling. The comparison she drew was simple and devastating. One group of American athletes bled for this country on the ice. The other collected the check and flew the Chinese flag.
Compare and contrast to some of those athletes, and I won't even dignify them by giving them a name, that train in America, that live in America, that were born in America, who have enjoyed the freedoms that America has given them, and then they don't even have the respect for the country in which has given them so much to represent that country. I wonder why. I can think of about 20 million reasons why. But I noticed at the end, that person didn't get on a plane and go back to that communist country. They came back to the free country, the US of A, who is the best country in the world to give them that opportunity. And just compare and contrast with what we saw with the men's hockey team. They are proud to be an American, and they showed it, and they left everything on the ice. So congratulations to all the American athletes who trained here and have pride in their country. And with that, I'm going to...
That contrast she laid out, the men's hockey team leading everything on the ice, versus an athlete who reportedly banked somewhere in the range of $29 million in Chinese sponsorships. That's not a subtle point. That's a sledgehammer. And what makes it land even harder is the details she dropped at the end. After the medals, after the Chinese national anthem, after the whole performance for Beijing, she didn't stay. She came back to America. She came back to the free country, the one she didn't think was worth representing. That tells you everything about the transaction that took place here. Now let's talk about the media reaction, because the sports press absolutely bent over backwards to make Eileen Gu sound like a visionary instead of someone who sold her national loyalty to the highest bidder. The dollar figures are staggering. $6 million reportedly just to compete, and $23 million more from Chinese corporate sponsors across a single year. And you'd think that would be the story. But instead, what most outlets wanted to talk about was how brilliant she is, how articulate, how she just has the right answer for every question. Former NFL quarterback Boomer Esiason wasn't buying any of it, and he said so out loud.
There's Chinese, and a mother is obviously she came here, and I guess there's some loophole that allows her to participate for China, and the Chinese government paid her a lot of money. It's kind of funny that a communist country would pay a woman to be propaganda as a capitalist.
And I heard she got $6 million for going there, and I heard the sponsorship over the last year. She got $23 million from different Chinese sponsors.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, so she's a very, very attractive woman, and she's extremely bright. She went to Stanford, but if you listen to her post, participation interviews, she's insufferable. She is. It's
that line he dropped. It's kind of funny that a communist country would pay a woman to be propaganda as a capitalist. That is one of the sharper observations anyone has made about this whole situation. China doesn't believe in the free market. China suppresses women. China censors its own citizens. But they'll write a $30 million check to a Stanford-educated American girl to be the glamorous face of their regime on the global stage. The irony doesn't get any richer than that.
It's hard to listen to, but then again, it's an individual sport by an individual person talking about herself, as opposed to talking about her teammates or the support that she receives.
I mean, you sent
me you one yesterday.
Listen,
if you listen to her,
I
you're
can't
like,
argue
what?
it. I can't. I mean, but how about that question that woman asked? By the way, she's like, "How much do you think?" Before, and this was like, she's like, this is out of respect. She's like, I'm not being disrespectful, but how much do you think before you speak? Because, I mean, you just have these such eloquent answers with anything that you're asked, whether it, has to do with the geopolitical climate or something that happened out there on the slopes or whatever it is. I mean, you just have the right answer for everything. I'm like, oh.
They didn't ask her about the communist government of China.
Well, of course not.
But the thing about her is that, I will say this, she's exceptionally bright.
Yeah.
And she has her answer. She knows how she's going to answer things, that's for sure. But nobody's really asked her a tough question. But that answer that she gave was just insufferable.
Insufferable is the word Esiason kept landing on. And honestly, the context matters. It's not about her looks or her grades. It's about the post-competition interviews where she floats above every hard question. Nobody asked her about the Uyghurs. Nobody asked her about Taiwan. Nobody asked her how she squares accepting tens of millions from a government that locks up journalists. She had the polished answer ready for everything except the things that actually matter. That's not brilliance. That's a very well-rehearsed deflection. Now, and I want to be straight with you here because this is where the story gets complicated. There is a personal side to this. During the competition itself, Gu was dealing with something real. Her grandmother had just passed away, and she spoke about it publicly. She said her grandmother was one of the reasons she chose to represent China, the maternal side, the heritage, the family roots. She made a promise to her grandmother before the games.
The reason I was late is that I just found out that my grandma passed away, and she was like She was a really big part of my life growing up and someone I looked up to immensely. She was such a strong, she was a fighter, and I think what's so interesting is that a lot of people just cruise through life, but she was a steamship. Like, this woman commanded life, and she grabbed it by the reins, and she made it into what she wanted it to be. And she inspired me so much.
Whatever your position is on her Olympic choice, that's a genuinely painful moment. Losing a grandparent mid-competition, finding out the news right before you have to face cameras, that's not something anyone should mock. And frankly, the people who went after her personally for that deserve the criticism they got. Grief is grief. You can oppose everything this athlete represents politically and still recognize a human being in pain.
The last time I saw her before I came to the Olympics, she was very sick, so I knew that this was a possibility. I didn't promise her that I was going to win, but I did promise her that I was going to be brave. Like, she has been brave. And that's why I keep referring to this theme of, like, betting on myself and, like, being brave and taking risks. It actually goes back to that promise that I made my grandma. And so I'm really happy that I was able to uphold that and hopefully do her proud. But it's also a really difficult time for me now. So I really apologize for being late, but, like, that's what was going on. Sorry. Guo Zhenfeng. Yeah, that's my middle name. Feng for her. Yeah.
Guo Ailing, Shasha, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your emotions with us. That's all what we have for today.
Here's where I draw the line, though. Sympathy for a person's loss does not mean immunity from accountability for the choices they made. The grief is real. The grandmother connection is real. And the $30 million deal with the Chinese government is also real. Those things can all be true at the same time. America first doesn't mean heartless. It means clear-eyed. You can feel for someone and still call the decision what it was. Because at the end of this story, and I want to bring it back to the core, the question isn't whether Eileen Gu is a good person or a bad person. The question is what kind of precedent we're setting. American training systems, American coaching, American slopes, American opportunity, all of it poured into an athlete who then delivered her peak performance years for Beijing. And when it was done, she came back to the free country, back to the one she didn't represent. That asymmetry should make every taxpayer and every patriotic American ask exactly what Congresswoman McClain asked. Why? The answer, reportedly, is about 29 million reasons, and none of them are wearing red, white, and blue. That's the story they don't want to frame that way, but we just did. Stay sharp and stay American. This has been Freedom Insight.